Hello friends and welcome back. Today I want to teach you how to grow a lot of food on very little money. If you're new to gardening, I want to explain 3 topics to you today. What is a growing zone? What is cold hardy versus not cold hardy? And how to stagger your plantings so that you can have a maximize production in your garden this year. I have been gardening for over 14 years and every single year I accumulate a little bit more knowledge, and I want to share that with you because this year is going to be so important to grow your own food because inflation is high and products are getting really expensive, especially food. So if you grow your own food, it's like growing your own money, and I want to teach more people how to be self-sufficient, at least in some vegetables. Every year it fluctuates a lot for me. 2 years ago I grew about 80% of the produce we ate, and last year it was a little funky and I did about 50% of what we ate. I focus on growing staple crops like potatoes, corn, stuff like that. But I also grow the classics, peppers and tomatoes. But I think where you get the most bang for your buck is growing greens and herbs. That's where you can maximize your return on investment, because a little clamshell of lettuce is like $5 at the grocery store, and a little clamshell of herbs is like $4. So if you can grow those in your yard or in your patio, you can save a ton of money. Now, don't get me wrong, getting tomatoes from your garden, getting peppers from your garden, it's also quite nice. But we want to focus on things that return quite a bit. So this year I want to focus on growing a lot of leafy greens, but also a lot of my staple crops like potatoes, tomatoes, beans, okra, and a few others. In my channel, you will find that I also love growing hardy tropical plants. So last year I did a trial on cassava. I also grew sesame seeds, I grew sugarcane, I grew taro, I grew ginger. So if you're interested in those, I have plenty of videos on how to grow those as well. But this video is going to be about how to grow the basics. The first thing you need to know is your growing zone. That is going to determine what survives the winter in your growing zone. So you're going to go to the USDA website, usda.gov, growing zone, and look up your zip code, and that's going to tell you your growing zone. I am in zone 7B, and that means that my first frost comes around October 15th, and my last frost that we have here is April 15th or so. The growing zone also dictates the lowest temperature or the average lowest temperature that you will see in your growing zone. And I think for zone 7B is like 10 degrees. So my average lowest temperature I will see in the winter months is about 10 degrees. Although this year we already saw 7 degrees. So just because the growing zone tells you the average doesn't mean that it can't go below that. So just be careful with what you plant. Your growing zone applies mostly to perennial plants, because that just dictates what kind of fruit trees or plants will survive your growing zone. For example, I grow apples, pears, peaches in my orchard, and those do really well. And I'm pretty sure that some people up in New York State, they can grow those as well. But once you go up and above New York State, some things don't grow in those zones because it is too cold for them. But for us, we are going to focus on the last frost and the first frost. So the first frost we get here is October 15th. So that means anything that is frost tender, like peppers and tomatoes, will die when you have your first frost. So peppers and tomatoes are those important crops that we focus on. So in order to plant those, we have to have frost-free days. So for me, that is around April 15th. And on April 15th, I can put my crops outside because they are going to be mostly safe from frosts. And in order to have plants ready for April 15th, you need to start your seeds indoors about 8 weeks prior to that. So that would be around February 15th. So this video is coming out just in time if you live in zone 7B or lower. So you would think that we would have to wait until April 15th to put crops into the ground because of frost, but that is not true, because there is a lot of crops that do really well while we still have temperatures that go below freezing, which is 32 degrees. So we can also take advantage of those frost tolerant plants by planting them right now, and then later on we'll use the same soil space to grow those crops that need the heat. So what that means is that we can grow cilantro, lettuce, radishes, leeks right now, and then in about 8 weeks, when we are frost free, we can put peppers, tomatoes, okras, zucchini into the ground. And that is how you optimize your growing space. So if you only have a growing space that is 10 by 10, you can grow 2 crops on it. So in order to maximize your growing space, you're going to grow leafy greens and some radishes and some things like that in your growing space. And once we don't have any frost anymore, we're going to take the little plugs that we grow here in our indoor room, and we're going to put them outdoors and hopefully maximize our harvest. So let's check the plants that I'm growing right now that I'm going to be planting outdoors in about 10 days. These right here are just a few examples of what I am going to be growing outdoors without much protection in the next week or so. I have peas, lettuce, carrots, turnips, beets, Russian kale, tatsoi, spinach, and some beautiful sugar snap peas. So what I've done is I have this little trays. Just from the years of growing foods, I have accumulated these trays. When you buy them from a nursery, you get trays sometimes if you buy the whole tray. And I just save them. They're a little flimsy, but if you treat them with care, they survive. So I fill them up with general purpose potting soil, and I put my seedlings in here. And unfortunately, these guys got a little leggy. You see how they're getting a little tall? That means that they are reaching for the light. And that is because I had them down here. I have this heat mat that really improves the germination rate. You don't need this to start off with, but if you can afford it, it's about $35, and it really does help jumpstart your seeds. And I have them down here, and this shelf does not have lights, and they must have sprouted 2 days ago, and I haven't been here to check them for 2 days, so they got a little leggy. So now the solution to this is to get them really close to the growing lights. So I have this bucket right here, and I'm going to put them right on top of the bucket, and we're going to get them as close as we can to those growing lights. You see how close they are? Even touching. And I can't get these lights any lower because I have other plants in here that I am overwintering. So that's okay. These are all tomato seedlings that I started about 10 days ago, and they have sprouted, and look how beautiful they look. My plan is to have them grow out a little bit more, and once they have a few sets of true leaves, I'm going to bring them inside my greenhouse so that they can get natural light. These are some of my other starts that I have here. I have some onions that I'm starting. Got these beautiful onions, and check this out right here. This is ginger. I also have some culantro that I'm overwintering from last year. A little guava plant, a little papaya tree, a pineapple tree in the back. All sorts of cool things are happening here. In the description of this video, I will link to another video that I have done in the past on how to start the seeds. And you can click that video and you can go watch it so that you can get a very detailed video on how to start your seeds. I have been doing this setup for about 5 years now, and it works really well. And I really enjoy having the heat mat. I have this beautiful full spectrum LED lights that can grow the seedlings really well. And I also added a greenhouse 2 seasons ago. And now when the seedlings become about 1.5 inches tall, 2 inches, I take them outside into my greenhouse, which I also have a heater on, so I can grow them out with natural light, and that saves me a lot of space in here and a lot of time. I also only have one shelf here where I have a heat mat on. So what I do is I start 4 trays at a time. Once they sprout, I move them up to the other shelf, and then they graduate out into the greenhouse. And that's how I'm growing hundreds of seedlings each growing season here. By growing your own seedlings, you save a ton of money because one tomato plant can be up to $5 to $10 at the nursery. So if you can start your own seeds indoors, that is great. If you don't have space for a grow room like mine, don't worry, you can grow outdoors directly by sowing your seeds into the ground. It just means that you are going to wait a little longer to harvest your plants. I have started tomato seeds in the ground after the frost, and I have grown them out and I've gotten plenty of harvest. So don't worry, if you don't have a grow room like this, you can also grow them in the ground, no problem. I hope to be able to teach you how to grow more food this year than you ever have before. And if you want to follow my journey here, make sure you follow my YouTube channel and you click subscribe, and make sure you like this video if you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching today, and I'll see you very soon in the next video.